Uh, it is Friday, the 8th of November, 2025. Welcome back to another video where I talk about things. In this video, I'm going to cover some of the latest and greatest happening in the world of geopolitics, specifically regarding El Presidente Donald Trump and the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and the recent signing or agreement to sign the Abraham Accords by none other than Azerbaijan, which, yes, is a Muslim country joining the Abraham Accords, or rather, to establish peace officially with Israel, which is actually a country that Azerbaijan has had good relations with for a good while. So, what exactly is going on? Well, the update on the Israel-Hamas war is pretty simple. Israel is still waiting, even now, for the return of, I believe it's 7 bodies now. At least at last count. I saw something earlier this morning, but not sure yet if it's confirmed. But there are apparently 7 bodies still in Gaza that need to be returned to Israel. They obviously know where these, however many it is, they obviously know where they are. You know, they're the most valuable asset, the only asset, right, that the Hamas hold at this point that have any value to them as an organization, trying to cling to power as long as possible until the inevitable happens one way or the other. Right? Because as long as Israel holds its resolve and has the backing of the U.S. president and the U.S. government, Hamas is going down. Okay, let's not kid ourselves here. Or they are going down, and they will be swept into the proverbial dustbin of history. Now, does that mean that people with that ideology will go down as well? No, there's still probably going to be a lot of people with that ideology because they're not just going to suddenly change their mind overnight. Some of them will start to change relatively quickly, but most of them won't. Let's be real. It's going to take a while to de-radicalize them and to de-radicalize even the population of those areas. It's going to take a while. It's not something that just happens overnight. It could take generations even, especially when you've been brainwashed for literally generations upon generations upon generations. And this isn't exactly like World War II, but it doesn't mean de-radicalization is impossible. It's just going to take more time and effort. Hello. My favorite book. Good question. Well, when it comes to this topic, other than the one that I like to point to most often, which I helped co-write, which is actually the Encyclopedia of the Arab-Israel conflict from 1948 to 1993. It's a really great book by Greenwood Press. But I love books like biographies, etc., like historical biographies, like the book My History by David Ben Gurion. Great example of a great book about this topic from his point of view. That's Israel's first prime minister, and obviously all the work he did before that and everything else. Anyway, those are a couple of my favorite books. Yes, I'm biased towards the one that I helped write, but that's because it's a very handy reference guide for all of the major events, in the first 45 years or so of Israel's existence. So obviously there's been a lot that's happened since then. But nevertheless, it's a great book. I highly recommend it. And there are others. I can point you to more that have helped either co-write or written myself, but that's for another video. The point is, the ceasefire is kind of holding, sort of, but there are constantly these breaks in the ceasefire and these situations that show up, like I told you about yesterday, right, with the whole guys stuck in the tunnel thing. right? And that has still not been resolved. Once that is resolved, it will be a different situation, obviously. And you know, I don't pity the guys stuck in the tunnels. Sorry, but if you're in those tunnels, you're guilty, right? There's no living hostages there anymore. Maybe there's a couple of dead hostages, but not in there with those guys. So there's no reason for them to be in there other than being, Hamas. And if they want to surrender, I guess they could try, but you know, Israel can also eliminate them. It's an active combat field, and that's their enemy. But Israel, I'm guessing, will probably not eliminate all of them, and will actually probably arrest most, if not all of them, because that's kind of the Israeli way, whether you like it or not. We're going to hold them, and they're going to think, oh, it's a bargaining chip. A bargaining chip for what? So you can release them in the future, and in the meantime, pay for their housing while they're in prison, and give them all their rights and privileges, and let them, in many cases, become more radicalized, and let them become the new Yahya Sinwar. No thanks. These guys are guilty of sin. Some of them may have been involved in the attacks on October 7th. Others wish they would have been. And yeah, I don't pity them. So whatever happens, happens. And if they go on to meet their maker, well, so be it. They FO'd, or they FA'd, and now they're going to FO, right? So we'll see what happens. But my guess is actually that they're going to walk out of there alive in some way. Somehow Israel's going to relent and say, okay, we'll just arrest you. Anyway, that's what's happening on that front. And what is this? Without, I don't know what you're saying. That's nice. Okay, and the next thing is Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, as you may know, is a Muslim country just north of Iran, just east of Armenia, which recently signed signed a deal to end the war with Armenia. Trump was instrumental in that, and got them to basically say, okay, we're going to stop fighting, and we're going to begin, economic cooperation on this route on the south end of Armenia and Azerbaijan, which is just like on the northern border of Iran, and hopefully that peace will become a real peace, not just a cessation of hostilities, but an actual peace treaty at some point. That'd be great. Israel has had a long-time relationship with Azerbaijan, partly because there was an old Jewish community in Azerbaijan. There's even a village called the Red Village, which is predominantly Jewish, or even entirely Jewish, I forget. But it is a Jewish village within Azerbaijan, and they lived there for more than 1,000 years when they were called the Mountain Jews. And they have been there for a very long time. And like I said, they've been in that one place for more than 1,000 years, and have had a thriving community. They've always gotten along well with the people of Azerbaijan. They've always been considered, part of the country. They have their own religion and their own beliefs, but there were never any, there haven't been massive pogroms against Israel and living in Azerbaijan. There haven't been, forced ethnic cleansing of Jews from Azerbaijan. None of that. Azerbaijan figured out a way to, coexist with the Jewish people in their own country, which has been relatively peaceful and a wonderful example and a role model of how Jews and Muslims can get along just fine. And so that's why Israel was always keen to be an ally or a partner or some kind of, something positive with with those people. And well, that's crazy. Okay. And so that is the status there. The Azerbaijani president had a three-way phone call with Bibi Netanyahu and President Trump, which was yesterday on the 7th of November. So that means today's, no, yeah. Sorry, I saw the report today, actually, on the 7th of November. So yeah, it is the 7th of November. And Like this is fresh off the wires, I guess, from a couple few hours ago or whatever. It might have happened on the 6th in Washington, D.C. But in any case, the president of Azerbaijan confirmed to President Trump that his country is joining the Abraham Accords. And Israel's prime minister was on the phone call and welcomed the accedents of Azerbaijan, or their planned accedents to the Abraham Accords between Israel and Azerbaijan. So it's a wonderful thing, and maybe hope for more peaceful developments in our region, which is so very badly needed. Okay, that's going to do it for now, folks. Talk to you later. Peace. Shalom.